AskReddit by Bernadette Swan-Songed. What's a fact about your favorite artist that most people don't know? As children, Alex Van Halen started playing guitar and Eddie Van Halen was on the drums. However, Eddie soon realized that Alex had a natural talent for drumming after hearing him play his drum kit better than he could. The two switched and the rest is history. I heard that while Eddie was at work paying for his drum set, Alex stayed home and played them. Weird Al was on tour when he got the call his parents had been found dead of carbon monoxide poisoning. He still went on stage that night saying his music had gotten a lot of people through hard times, so it would have to do the same for him. I was at that concert in Appleton, WI. Everyone rallied around him. Geezer Butler, not Ozzy, was the primary lyricist for Black Sabbath. Carly Rae Jepsen plays chess a lot. Sinead O'Connor's father left her at a Catholic home for fallen women when she was only 14. When she was bad, the nuns would make her sleep in the dying room where the institutionalized elderly were sent to die. A movie I think was called The Magdalene Laundries was made about the situation in Ireland. No one knew about this when O'Connor ripped up a photo of the Pope on SNL. Nothing compares to this. The Beatles made the album SGT, Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because Paul McCartney was inspired by the Beach Boys album Pet Sounds, an album that was made because Brian Wilson was inspired by the Beatles album Revolver. When Brian Wilson heard Sgt. Pepper's for the first time, he sat in his car and cried because he knew he'd never top it. The Beatles heard an advanced pressing of Pet Sounds as they were getting ready to record Revolver. Rubber Soul inspired Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds influenced Revolver. McCartney loved God Only Knows and Brian's bass lines. Brian answered Revolver with Good Vibrations but then fell out. Huge loss. Pink Floyd fans love to say Pink Floyd was the first music in space. You'll even see it on some Pink Floyd merch. As much as I'd love it to be the case, it's simply not true. Huge Pink Floyd fan. I feel like I've heard this one before but would not have remembered. Would have been cool if true, but oh well. They did, however, along with Led Zeppelin and a few others that I don't remember, help fund Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Which I think is way cooler than the space thing. Amy Mann is the toe-less nihilist in Big Lebowski. I knew that. Flea is the one that looks like Flea too. Mozart was really into scat, and I don't mean jazz. He wrote letters to his mother and sister saying how great it would be if somebody dropped a nice runny duck on his face. Honestly, it would be weirder if you did mean jazz, seeing as how it wasn't invented until over 100 years after he died. He also composed a party song Let Mitchie Marsh Lick Me in the Arse. Jerry Garcia lost half of his right middle finger in a woodchopping accident with his brother when they were kids. Like Margot Tenenbaum. J.S. Bach was a nobody in his lifetime. Often considered the best classical musician in history now. He was not a celebrity, but he was not a nobody. This was a different time, about 400 years ago. Unless you are actively involved with music, you likely never heard of most of the greats. While someone like Mozart may have been much more popular because he wrote plays, Bach played church organs at multiple churches at the same time, offered tutoring and tuning services, wrote and published books and works. Even popularized the current piano temperament. He might not have been the hot shit of the street gossip, but to say he was a nobody is not really the truth. Weird Al was valedictorian of his high school class. He also graduated at 16 after skipping 2 grades. Bono's mother died of a brain aneurysm at her father's funeral. Lana Del Rey sometimes picks up shifts at a Waffle House in Louisiana. Caravaggio was notorious for brawling with gangs of young men, and the transcripts of his police records and trial proceedings are very elaborate. He also committed a murder which forced him to flee from Milan, first to Venice and then to Rome. They covered a bit of that in the Netflix series Ripley. Hozier is not actually Jesus. True, he's King Oberon. Danny Elfman had no knowledge of music theory and couldn't read music for several years. Salvador Dali was named after his older brother Salvador, who had died 9 months earlier. Lady Gaga's real name is Stephanie Joan Angelina Germanotta. Can you imagine calling her that at a concert? I remember she did an interview when her first album came out and said she took the name from Queen's song Radio Gaga. Before he turned to trolling the art world by signing a urinal mutt and calling it Fountain, Marcel Duchamp was an incredibly accomplished painter. His painting Nude Descending a Staircase No. 2 is the pinnacle of Cubist ideals and execution. He was also an accomplished chess player and had a female alter ego named Rose Celavi, which is a pun on the phrase Eris. Celavi roughly translated to 6. Such is life. Upvote for my favorite artist. LHOOQ. Before the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia was a bluegrass banjo player. And during the Grateful Dead 2. Bring Dead Olin from the black metal band Mayhem had a girlfriend that many people don't know about, and she was the first person to show him a Mayhem album while he was playing in a band called Morbid. I don't know how many know, but Martin Gore has an African American father. Victor Tsoi went to a psychiatric hospital for a month and a half in 1983. Contrary to Bruce Springsteen's song 10th Avenue Freeze Out, the E Street Band was not formed at the corner of E Street and 10th Avenue, but they did take their name from E Street, which is where the band practiced at the parents' house of one of the now former members, David Sanchez.